Hi, I'm John, welcome to Premium Builds. In this video we're going to be taking a look at the RTX 3080. Our RTX 3080 has arrived, it's the EVGA XC3 Ultra version, and we're going to be running it through its paces. We've already got it in our benchmarking system, and I'm looking at a number of things, from what resolutions this card's best suited to run at, what your realistic performance expectations are from the card. I'm running the benchmarks differently to many of the sites you will see. Typically, to benchmark various cards, you would run them at highest settings to try and find the biggest performance differences between them. However, it can be hard to look at those numbers and understand how it will actually perform in your system. The way I'm running my benchmarks, differentiate them from others and to help you choose the cards that you want to buy, is I'm running at realistic settings. So for example, you would want an RTX 3080 to run very well at ultra or high settings, but you wouldn't necessarily max everything out because that can really harm performance for very little visual benefit. By running at more realistic settings, I can show you a true performance level of the card, and you will get a much better understanding of how this card will perform in the games you want to play. So we're running benchmarks at 1440p, 1440p ultrawide and 4K, and I've run some at 1080p as well, although I wouldn't recommend using this card in a 1080p system except in very specific circumstances. We've also managed to get our hands on an RTX 3070 and a 3060 Ti, and I'm running those cards as well to find out where the performance differences lie and whether you might be better off saving money on the GPU and use one of the slightly lower powered cards in a system that will save you money overall, still provide excellent performance, but obviously wouldn't utilise the higher cost of the RTX 3080. These cards were released at $649 from the Founders Edition and the recommended retail price point. But we've all seen what's happened since then. Many of the aftermarket cards are much more expensive than that, starting at $750, $800. And again, we're seeing prices push up towards $1,000 for the very desirable models. The ROG Strixes and the FTW3 Ultras are a little bit more expensive. And once again, we're in a situation where it's four figures for a top-end graphics card. We've also, of course, seen huge supply issues with these cards. They're hard to get, and that means that people are inflating prices. Even legitimate retailers are charging more than recommended retail for these cards because they know people are prepared to pay it at the moment. We've obtained our cards through normal retail channels and at normal retail prices, and they've arrived this week, which is realistic, I think, for launch day purchasing. It's starting to come through now, and the RTX 3060 Ti that we bought came through a couple of days after release, so that was good. The other testing we want to do on this GPU is running it back through the various CPU configurations. We've got a 5800X in our test system, and obviously that shouldn't be a performance bottleneck for any current GPU, but we're going to see if it is. We can also run that as a Ryzen 5600X by disabling 2 cores and seeing if that impacts performance. I've got a Ryzen 3600 that I want to try out as well and see if that's a viable CPU option. If you're going to use this very powerful graphics card, do you necessarily need the latest and greatest CPU to run it well? We've also got an i7 9700K and an i5 8600K from the last generations of Intel CPUs, and we'll be seeing if they impact performance negatively or if you're safe to use those systems and enjoy the benefits of these new cards. We've also managed to lay our hands on an RTX 3070 and an RTX 3060 Ti, and we're going to be running them through their paces as well in order to advise you as to which is going to be the best graphics card for your needs. The RTX 3060 Ti looks really impressive at 1440p, and it's posting some really great numbers in games like Flight Simulator 2020, where it does really well at 1440p, but also the demanding AAA titles like Red Dead Redemption 2 and Shadow of the Tomb Raider. We've got some interesting results there. Other things that we're intrigued to test on this card are things like the RTX and the DLSS performance, and certainly DLSS shows some interesting results in my preliminary testing, and I'm going to be looking into that more. It may well be that the DLSS features in games where it's enabled is a real game changer on this card and allows you to run at way higher settings and with RTX on with almost no loss of visual quality at all. So I'm really interested to test that out, and I'll be presenting results to you on that. Moving on then to the specifics of this card, this is the EVGA XC3 Ultra model. It's got a 1755 MHz boost clock, and what makes it really unique rather than its performance is its form factor. It is one of the smallest 3080s available. And it's a 2.2 slot design, so it's 2.2 PCIe slots thick, and it does just have a 2-slot backplate. That's important for some space-restricted cases, ITX builds in particular, where you need a narrow card to fit inside the case itself and to provide adequate clearance for airflow. It does fit inside my Dan A4, so I'm really looking forward to seeing what thermals are like and whether performance is negatively impacted by being in such a small case. So we've managed to get hold of the 3 GPUs that are currently available in the Ampere lineup. I'm really looking forward to bringing you testing results for them, and we'll be making some calls as to whether these GPUs as a whole are worthwhile purchases, where in the context of an overall PC build or an upgrade you might want to slot them in. I hope you've enjoyed this little preview of our card. We'll be getting back to you with performance numbers, realistic, real-world data that will show you how these cards are going to perform in your build, and we'll also be testing them against the 3070 and the 3060 Ti so that you can make a really informed decision, make sure that every dollar counts when you spend it towards your PC build. Please do head on over to premiumbuilds.com. We've got loads of build guides, recommendations, product reviews and more. Everything you need to know how to build your PC.